staff is absolutely amazing. All of our staff are certified with the New Jersey credentials for either the CPRS or the CRISP, and one is a little bit more mental health based, the other one's a little addiction based, but I would say a large percent of our staff is dually certified, and we are all about evidence-based practices and certifications. Actually, like a cert nerd, like there's a certification, I want to take it. Most of our staff is like that. So we have all these individuals that, have taken all of these trainings and they have so much to offer. So we were like, let's get excited about this and give some really good groups to individuals and see what happens. And United by Wellness.
We initially weren't sure about the name, and we were brainstorming, and we all say now, I don't know how we hit a home run in coming up with United by Wellness, but it really does represent what our goal was. So we just wanted to share with you some of our groups, our love for Canva as a staff and team grew as we made flyers and newsletters during the pandemic, because
if you were not familiar with Canva, do yourselves a favor, get familiar and go down that rabbit hole.
And we're also looking for sponsorship, Canva, if you're listening. You always got to try and get that extra little money as a nonprofit, right? So we were trying to find ways to make sure that we looked like we were united, that we were one team. And, when you have in-person groups, you can try and play around with what's on the walls, or if you have music playing, or, diffusers. We had some resources that were more limited, so we had to come up with new ones. And some of that was our flyers. And as we launched United by Wellness, I remember in the peer group talking, and in my head, I'm like, a weekly newsletter with the schedule, that's as much as I would want in my inbox. And some of our staff were like, you gotta do it daily. I'm like, daily? Who wants a daily newsletter? But everybody that comes to our groups wants a daily newsletter. And so we have, you'll see some data later, but I mean, pretty much every day, every other day, folks are opening these newsletters and seeing these flyers and potentially coming to some of these groups. So,
and it's a great way for us to get out any changes that might be happening that day. Like Carolyn was just saying, I was like, nobody wants a daily newsletter. I don't even like the emails I get every day, let alone another one. Put that right into spam. But people have really enjoyed the newsletters, and we keep them fresh, we keep them fun, but it's giving people the information that they need that day to know what groups are going on, what groups are canceled. So it's been good. And one thing we wanted to make sure we were covering was all of the dimensions of wellness when we started our groups. So now we're going to have a little bit of fun. We have our t-shirt cannon in the front row. So real quick, 8 dimensions of wellness. Can anybody name, well, throw out one. We don't have that many t-shirts, so. 8.
No.
Don't tell me if you Google.
You don't tell when you Google.
Nobody?
give me one. Nobody wants a t-shirt?
Financial.
Woo!
Financial,
There you go.
All right.
There we go.
I will go ahead. We have a Money Talks group that was formed by a gentleman who works as an engineer by day and really got involved in our bipolar support group and was saying, we need something more around financial wellness because that's how I found wellness for myself. And we said, you want to do another group? Sure. So here
Money
we go.
talks. All right, what's another one? Go ahead. Physical.
There
Very
we go.
nice. So especially at a time where people are, home and isolated, we wanted to make sure that we were providing people with groups that could keep them moving. So we have a few groups, and again, you're not going to see all of them here, but we have a healthy living group, healthy habits, and it just really takes people through the physical dimension of wellness and how important it is, and things to do at home to stay. We have some meditation groups and light yoga. So that would be the physical dimension. What else do we got? Go ahead. I'm sorry? Diversity. Is diversity one of the dimensions?
No, but I think that that kind of gets to, social wellness, where you really want to have some diversity within your social wellness. And we absolutely, one of my favorite flyers that Michelle made, I think, just hanging out on Saturdays. And you can see upwards of 20, 30 people there at, a social wellness group.
I wish I could. Family. Which dimension could that fall into?
Yeah, I
Emotional.
like it. I
There you
like
go.
it.
I want to be like Oprah and be like, you get a t-shirt and
You
you
get
get
a
a
t-shirt.
t-shirt. I don't even know how many dimensions we're on at this point.
Let's see. We also had, oh, awesome, please.
Oh, okay. All right, we have a question coming online here. Now we're really starting like Oprah. Okay.
With the shortage of mental health professionals, please speak to the viability of training and engaging mental health peers.
Thank you for the question. One key piece to our team is that you can come on as a volunteer. We absolutely love to have volunteers, and our team is so large at about 65 or so now, because we will take individuals like I was talking about, the gentleman that does our financial wellness group, because we want folks that come to the groups, they're going to connect to different people. They might want to see themselves in that facilitator, and so the more folks that we can have on our team, the better. And so anybody that is a part of our team either has that peer credential that Michelle was talking about, or has had extensive training from us on how to facilitate peer-led support groups. I don't know if there's anything else you want to add.
I would say for a majority of the volunteers that we've had in Ocean who have, become linked to the United by Wellness, if they're coming in as a volunteer and they, they're interested in running a group or learning more about becoming a peer, then we help them get that credential if they're interested. And 99% of the time, they are interested in the credential.
Yeah, one of the things that we've built into with the, not everything is that's associated with the MHA is, for example, we offer the credentials for the mental health certification in New Jersey. So we offer those trainings. We made those trainings virtual. That's just another component. So again, this is a connector. I think we really look at as we're developing this, that it's a broad connector for peers. And that it's not just going to one group and an isolated thing you're part of. We're starting to develop this with this recovery community, a virtual recovery community, that then you can connect to other pieces of recovery in the community and build those recovery communities. Things like wellness recovery action plan groups in the communities, using the virtual piece. And that's really what the programming for United by Wellness is built on. It's something there for everybody to kind of connect into. Again, building a community of choice, maximizing choice. There's not a track that you have to go into. It's really designed to meet individual needs. And then the whole process, really develop something that is reflective of the need of a very broad community. One of the most important pieces that I loved in this process is that, and I think we may talk about this later, but let's just pop in here, is that the groups, can range from music groups, entertainment social groups, and maybe Michelle will talk about that in a second, where there's 50, 60 people on, having a social event together and being part of something, to a group that's very specialized, that may be working with survivors of sexual assault. That's a very small group that may have 2 or 3, 5 or 6 people in it. They're just as equally of value, locally, because you don't have enough people. But if you do this bigger scale, you've got the opportunity to really offer a wide variety of specialty groups within a whole network of other kinds of groups and areas of support. So it gives people, once they step in once, they have a large menu of services and opportunities to grow and build their own peer network.
The Adult Survivors of Child Abuse group is a very specific facilitator-trained 21-step group based from out west. And in South Jersey, we provided it once a week, and there was one group way up in North Jersey. And that was all that was provided pre-pandemic. But now, with that being a platform, there were folks that were coming not just from New Jersey anymore because it was on that ASCA's website as well. So it really changed the game for folks, for some of those specialized smaller groups, to be able to have access to that support.
And just to piggyback off of what Bob said, our Music to My Ears group is a group that started right in the very beginning of when we went virtual. And it was because a staff member came and said, you know, I want to give something to individuals to do on a Friday night. Individuals in recovery from either mental health or addiction, just something fun. It's like music is a great connector. Everybody loves music. And that group grew to 60 people on a Friday night. And it went from
Consistently.
our group, and then he called me, he said, can we make it 2 hours? And I said, okay, we can have it 2 hours. Can we make it 3 hours? I was like, whoa, we're pushing it. Who wants to go to a 3-hour group? But people wanted it.
60 people.
They wanted
every
it.
week.
Every week. And it just goes to show, and in the same respect, we have a group, Grand Love. It's for grandparents who are raising grandchildren due to substance use. And that group, maybe 6 people was the max, but it was 6 people that supported each other. They came back every week, and it was one of our better groups. People always ask what makes a good group. A lot of people, 5 people, that's not really a great group. That's not necessarily true, because the things that those folks are getting from that group, it's invaluable.
Yeah.
What was that called? Grand Love?
Grand Love.
Grand Love. Absolutely. So one of the things we also wanted to incorporate that we did in person was really kind of having a space where the members could voice either what's going on, what they want to see, what they're enjoying, areas that they want to see improvements in. And so we continued that on a virtual platform, and we called it our community town hall. And from our community town hall, a lot of groups were born. They wanted the members a group around stigma. So we had one of our interns do a series about stigma. They wanted a place to be able to share their creative ventures. So we created that. So you are really, having an opportunity to listen and try and make sure that this virtual community was for the people that were attending.
And we have a few depression groups, depression and anxiety groups that run, and they're very different. The titles might be the same, flyers are going to be different, and the flyers are going to be amazing. But the groups themselves, because the facilitators are different, they're very different groups. And it just goes because we're truly trying to meet people where they're at. You may go to the first group, and it's not your cup of tea. But that second group might be, because it's completely different the way it's run. So because we have so many peer staff, and 65, I think, is where we're at right now, what they're bringing to the table, it's amazing.
So as we started to progress on and really, figure out what this was going to be, the holidays came about. And when we were in person, we would do some things ahead of an actual, federal holiday or day off by the agency, and talk about in the group ahead of time, what are you going to do for your wellness? And, we started to think, we have a virtual platform. That's a game changer. How can we use that to better support our folks during the holidays?
Because the holidays can be rough, right? Especially for consumers that don't have a lot of support at home. And when we were in person at the wellness centers and they were closed, what was that individual doing that day? So we threw it out to staff to see if anybody was interested in, running a group or two. And the response we got back was overwhelming.
What's interesting too, by about this time, the powers that be, we were running this as a pilot. We were trying to engage people that we aren't, but we weren't marketing it crazy, because we want to see where things go. And so the powers that be at our division said, hey, this is kind of interesting. Of course, not offering any money to help and support, but how things go.
That's why Canva's going to sponsor us.
Right, that's what we need Canva. But they were always, well, what can you do about the holidays? So it turned as a great opportunity for us to display another thing of what this wellness center can do. So I'll just, we did things for Thanksgiving that were amazing. People sharing a meal together, okay. Bring your food. We'll sit here and talk. We'll have a joint Thanksgiving dinner today. And that went really well. And I have to say that all the staff volunteered to do this. You know, we were not forcing anybody to work on holidays. Everybody of the facilitators wanted to do that. So we really kind of geared ourselves up to the holiday week. So they developed, I'm not saying there's not a we, it's them. They did the work, 40 groups over a 4-day period. So there was really something going on every day for Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, holidays. We did stuff for Hanukkah,
Kwanzaa,
for Kwanzaa,
New
we did
Year's.
New Year's. We did all those things. So there was really an opportunity for people to be involved in it. And it just kind of is a game changer. You know, instead of people coming to us, we were really being able to come to them. And I think that was really one of the points that we knew, hey, this is going to be a game changer if we kind of do this right and let it develop from what consumers need.
Do you have a question?
Yeah, hello everyone, Teresa Nguyen. I have a question from online, from Shannon. She wants to know, do you have groups for those recovering after a suicide attempt or similar topics? And kind of what is it like to run a virtual group around suicidality, maybe?
One of our other programs, I believe, has a group around loss of suicide and things like that. And we also, you have staff that do grief groups as
Yes.
well. And I can say a big component of any group that's touching upon some more heavier emotional topics, the importance, because you lose that component of kind of being able to see if someone's shifting in their seat, especially if potentially the camera's off, the importance of really trying to make sure that everyone checks in with some emotions at the beginning of the group and at the end of the group. And some of our facilitators would also say, like, the group is over. If anyone is, not feeling in a well place, I will stay on to be able to check in and kind of link folks with resources. And so it would allow for that kind of what you might see, walking out to the parking lot or after everyone else left the room, to get a better gauge and follow up on folks. When you were in person, if you thought that someone was not in a well place, you could, walk with them or, walk out of the room and together chat. If somebody leaves a virtual group, they're right, poof, gone. So in our registration process, which we'll show in a couple of slides, we did ask folks to, they had to share their email so they got the newsletter, and we asked for their phone number. And so from our philosophy, which was very much come as you are. If you want to be Mickey Mouse, make sure you're Mickey Mouse next week. Like, it's okay if that's what you would like. We were asking for a little bit more of some personal information so we could follow up with someone if they were not feeling well. And we definitely have had instances where, a staff member might, say to their supervisor, hey, so-and-so's not feeling well. And they might jump on Zoom and go into a breakout room. Or if the person left, the supervisor, while the facilitator is still facilitating the group, the supervisor is then calling the individual to check in. So we tried to be very mindful of kind of keeping some of those more safety precautions, or trying to be able to check in with folks because you couldn't maybe read body language as much or things like that. So a very good point to share, because you lose some of your tools when you're on that virtual platform. And so we had to really develop others to make sure that we were still supporting folks to the best of
And I think with heavier groups, we try to have, 2 facilitators in there, or, multiple staff members in there. And there's always breakout rooms available so that at any time somebody can, chat the facilitator and a staff member will take them out into a breakout room. So we're giving people an option in case they need to talk to someone one-to-one. And also for some of our heavier groups like, grief and loss, our facilitators are trained, certified grief specialists, because that's a heavier topic, and, that can be a lot.
Yeah, I think that's really reflective, at least the commitment the MHA has made, is that we really are looking to, train our peers. As much opportunity they can to be trained in specialized topics as well, too. Getting a peer certification is great, but it's just a certification. It's life experience, it's the supervision that's provided, the support that's provided, the ongoing wellness focus that we have on our peer staff makes a huge difference, and really provide additional training and opportunities for folks. Because again, in our perspective, that we're trying to really build a recovery community that's going to be there after people leave treatment, after people, whether they even get into treatment these days, and I'm not even going to talk about that issue today, of access, what's going to be there? And we really feel that this is going to be an important piece in the community to continue, and many other opportunities. So why don't we talk a little bit, as we get closer to the time, just a little bit about the structure, so you see how that part developed. And we can then talk about some of the opportunities of how this can grow and change and evolve. Because we know it's just brand new.
In the fall of '21, we really got to a conclusion. We were on to something. And there were definitely kinks to work out. There was now a lot of team integration. Our peer leadership team were two peas in the pod at that point. But we needed to bring all the facilitators that might work 1 hour a week and then come to a team meeting or some supervision also bought in. And so T-shirts that some of you now have was definitely one of them, but really also trying to have some pieces in place. We set up so all of the groups were on one of two Zoom accounts, not all separate ones, so we could really track reporting and things like that. We brought everyone onto Microsoft Teams. We were having staff meetings and making sure that we were discussing everything that was going on. And so we really started to pull together every single group that was happening within our community centers all onto one schedule. That was a very big deal. Being able to make it so if you were getting the Zoom information, you were registering with United by Wellness, and we were able to just get a little bit of data and really unite everyone. And one of the pieces that we didn't think we would necessarily hit upon was that we might have at one time 4 groups running at the same time, and that's maybe why our numbers aren't great in those groups. And so we also then was very strategic with when we were offering groups so that we had more availability to folks. And as we did that, we are probably 80 to 90 groups a week that we were offering virtually. And so that allowed folks to be able to really use this as a tool and determine how many groups they needed, what those groups were, be able to try out, and it really kind of started to bring everything united.
United. And we're running groups 7 days a week, from 8 a.m. until, I think our last group is 9 p.m. And, it's an hour group. So it's really giving people choices and options on, when they can attend. And we really try to bring over our self-help centers of the philosophies of, really meeting people where they're at. And recovery is individual and it's voluntary, right? So you're not required to be there. You're not mandated to be there. You come because you want to come. You don't have to come every week. Like Carolyn said before, if you come as Mickey Mouse one week, we just ask you to stay as Mickey Mouse because it's easier for us for tracking purposes, but we're truly just meeting people, where they're at. All of our groups are person-centered. Members set their own goals, their own recovery paths, and we just try to help them on their journey.
One of the things that we have tried to do is really make the registration process simple. There is no real funding at this point. We'll talk a little bit about that. And so we use SurveyMonkey because we as an organization already have an account to that. And so we're asking their name, their email, what county they're from, so we can kind of keep track of that. In New Jersey, funding is very much connected to counties, and a phone number if they like, and keeping it very simple. The registration is online. However, you can call into Zoom. You don't have to have technology. And so you can also call and get a live person who can walk someone through the calendar, the groups, send them out a hard copy and get them prepared to go. And it's that easy.
It's that easy. And I think it's important to mention that Zoom, you can just call. If you don't want to be on the computer, you can just call in and be a part of the group. And I think that we ask county because, for folks that may not be in one of our counties where we're familiar with the resources, it gives us the opportunity then to link them with additional services, when needed, if they're looking for something in person or around their area.
As we started to build things, we really wanted to try and, again, create that united front. And so we really wanted to create a outline of what our values are, what we want members to feel when they're in our groups, what we want facilitators to be doing. And so this is, one piece of what the peer leadership staff put together.
And you can see it up there, and again, this is coming from peers, so, people that have walked the walk, talked the talk, and now we're really just helping give back and run groups. But our values, being authentic and, advocacy, MHA, I have to advocate. Peer run, confidential, tools and the resources and skills that we navigate our unique paths, whatever that may be. Empowerment, personal responsibility. Those are really the values of United by Wellness and what makes us.
Looks like we might have another question.
Yeah. Are groups free even for those not living in New Jersey?
Yes, they are.
Yes.
If it's free, it's for me.
But we would appreciate a donation. That's fine. That's fine. The Singapore people were really good, It's amazing what we got.
So one of the things that we also worked on doing was creating a handbook. And we just went through the first big editing process, and it was long, but it's because we really wanted it to be very helpful and clear cut to what we want United by Wellness and the facilitators to live and do. And so it was a way to bring 65 facilitators together on one team, having not met each other in person, being hours and hours apart from each other, and trying to make sure that we look like we are all on the same team, and that you're going to get the same quality of support no matter what group you go to.
Right.
One of the things that I started to do during our staff meetings was try and be as absolutely corny as possible to
She's really good at it.
to get people there. We all know May is Mental Health Month, but apparently it is also National Pet Month. And so our May staff meeting included lots of silly puns about pets to get through the agenda, because we only have an hour once a month with some of these folks all in the same room. They're receiving supervision from their team more, on a weekly basis, but everybody together, we've got 1 hour once a month. And so to try and keep people engaged, to try and really create a space where people are getting to know each other. I have found being as absolutely ridiculous as possible. At least they come back.
No, and honestly, staff meetings, staff meetings kind of like, I gotta go to staff meeting. It's not even mandatory that they attend, but everybody comes because they want to, and they look forward to that, once a month, getting together with everybody. Even for just consumers, like talking about United by Wellness, it was just as beneficial for staff.
Yeah.
It really was.
And we saw that after the holidays. Our January staff meeting, we walked away going, we knew the holiday calendar looked cool. It looked impressive when we called for that, hey, does anyone want to volunteer? But the facilitators' take back of, it wouldn't have been the holidays if I didn't spend Christmas morning, with folks. So it really showed to us that we had our facilitators bought in and united as well, and really then was like, okay, we're really onto something now.
And I think that's the real key point, is that we developed, the programming out there, with the groups, and pulled those things together in an amazing way, set up the structure for it to work, but also put just as much effort in supporting the facilitators that are running this project. Because again, you're running a large project, you need to build, your mission, vision, values very strong, and that level of support and self-care. Because self-care, hey, that's the core as we're learning through the pandemic, and folks with any kind of challenges, it's more. So we really built a community on both ends, a community in the community, also a community of facilitators. And
And we
that's really
see
the
our
element.
facilitators at other facilitators meetings. So they're going for themselves on off time for their own well-being because they want to be a part of the community and it helps feed their mental well-being.
Okay.
And so that really also kind of showed something.
At the start of a group or a session, and or in the training for your facilitators, is there conversation with them around, you are not a therapist in this capacity, you are this, or this is not group therapy, but it is this? Like, how are those kind of parameters set?
So the question is related to, with our facilitation at the beginning or during it, as well as training the peer staff, how do we make the differentiation that this is not clinical group therapy? You wanna-
I think that our peer staff know, that's one of the benefits, is that we are not clinical, and it is not therapy. It is just peer support. And I say just, but, that's valuable. And they're not trying to be anything other than that.
And the members know that?
Yes.
Oh,
And they're
100%.
So if it's like, for many years, I ran a depression support group. And so I would also check in the beginning, from 1 to 10, how are you doing? What's been going on? And I might say, oh, I'm about a 7 this week. I'll be traveling. I feel like I'm going to be leaving some, loose ends at home that somebody else will have to take care of. But I have, fabulous team members that are really helping me out. So I'm happy to be here right now. So we ask them to make sure that they're authentic to if they're having a good or bad day, but they tie it to that they have outside support. So it's not the group supporting them, but they also, if, they're having a good or bad day, they are authentically sharing that.
That's great, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just for a follow-up question to that question, and by the way, thank you very much for all you do. I think it's great, and I believe everyone here would admire you guys and would admit that you guys are doing amazing work. But as I think through, and after she asked a question, are there any questions that comes up from, say, liability-wise, that has come up in some of your peer members who are providing this? Are they concerned about anything like that? Because as I'm sitting here thinking through, because you want to create this, you want to do this in the community where there is really access issues to healthcare needs, but oftentimes when this discussion comes up, it's there is always a fine line between where those peer support goes beyond clinical, where is liability comes in this place. Are there anything like that comes up in your discussions or?
Every day it feels like. So for folks at home, we were first told how great we are. And then secondly, really the idea that where does liability play a part in this, because this is non-clinical. And one of the pieces that we put together very clearly in our handbook is this chain of command. And so in every region, that south, central, north, we have a manager to the wellness center and then their supervisor, their director. And so there is 6 people's cell phone number that is available to any facilitator at any point. And so the reason there's so many is so that they have an arsenal of information. Maybe Michelle is in a meeting while this is happening, and so she doesn't see that her phone rang from or texted from the facilitator, but if they then get me, I'm on it. And we have been able to guide the peer staff at any point that there have any concerns of well-being for someone, around safety, or aren't sure. One of the things that we found during the pandemic was trying to figure out an adult with developmental and mental health disabilities who has a parent who has guardianship over them, and they're sharing thoughts of suicide, and the guardian does not believe that they need any clinical support, what our role is in that. And I said to one of my staff as we were kind of walking through it, this is a new one for me. I think, as a community nonprofit, you can think of 100 things that are going to happen, and it's the 100th thing that you have to figure out, but we figure it out as a team, united, and thus far, we're doing okay in liability.
Yeah. Again, it's peer support. It's taking that step, and that's what we're really pushing, and we're training for it and building that kind of community support for it, and keeping it non-clinical. That's really the important piece. You know, that's the line. I know we're getting a little tight on time. I did like to have Carolyn share some of the data that we've collected over the first year, because I think that's really important, and then just a quick sum up.
So we have had during our first, not even year yet, over 22,000 duplicated members. So to me, we were doing something right. We're close to about 1,200 people that have signed up. We are sending out newsletters at least daily, and we are having folks open them about 50% of the time. You'll see in our data, and I did break it down to show from July to December and then January on. We weren't able to collect all of the data of what we were doing because we used a lot of different Zoom accounts. You know, that one day that we went from in-person to virtual, we were all scrambling and 10,000 Zoom accounts, popped up. We're now on 2 Zoom accounts, and so we can pull reporting. We can see absolutely everything that's happening. So we anticipate from May until the end of the year that our numbers will look a lot more similar to what they did in the beginning to now in 22. One of the big things that we also have done is we've done some surveys, and they are optional to our members, and we ask some more demographic data, and we give out a free gift card if you complete the survey. And one of the things that we were surprised to see was that only 52% of the folks that are coming to our groups are receiving behavioral health services. So that was surprising to us. The racial breakdown was very similar to the New Jersey racial breakdown. The employment status, we were seeing that over half were working full or part-time. And I think that when you think of folks that are consuming mental health services, you might not think that. As well, we had folks that, absolutely lived with a mental health disorder, but we had folks that had no diagnosis because they did not have clinical services. And so we really started to see that we were, for some folks, the beginning to getting any services, even potentially a therapist or something like that, because we were free, we weren't asking a lot of questions, and we were so accessible 7 days a week, 80 some groups. So as we are kind of, pivoting and seeing where we go from here, we're really seeing how broad our reach is and working to try and capitalize on that a little bit.
Yeah, I think we're looking at ways that we can continue to improve this product. And again, we've only been going really 11 months, which is kind of amazing to me. And, so we're starting looking at ways that we can use some better use of technology. We're looking at ways that we can use texting and chatting together to provide levels of support. Ways that we can use some communication platforms that we're working with. We're working with a national group called GOMO, which works on sending positive messaging out via texting. So that could be something that we could build into this piece. Looking at ways that people could self-refer into this via text. Other kinds of things. But we're also looking at other ways that we can collect data. This can be a portal into the services of the 80 groups we have. Well, if you could say, I'm interested in this, hit a button on your text, here's 8 groups that would be good for you. Or here's some different kinds of options. So we're really looking at ways that we can build this platform out as a really entryway into all of our peer services, but then also all the services that the MHA offers. And then there's also, obviously, you can just think of the potentials of those to be. I mean, we are concerned about people that don't have the technology, and we have other parts of our organization kind of working on that. But this is, has really allowed us to expand the reach to basically